Hello, hello, Ekaterina. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. Hello, Amir.
Привет. How are you today?
Привет. I'm fine, and you?
I'm fine too. Thank you.
Mhm.
How is Russia? And how's
Uh,
everything?
all
All
is
good?
good. All is good,
Uh-huh.
yes.
I see.
Thank you.
And what are you reading these days?
I read Sherlock Holmes in
Sherlock Holmes,
English.
still reading.
In English, yes.
Wow. A lot of Victorian English, right? Old style, a little old
Yes.
style English. Yeah. Is it difficult for you to read?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes there are difficulties.
Sometimes it's not about English. Sometimes it's about a bit different lifestyle, right? Uh,
Yes.
Horses and carts and uh,
Yes.
telegrams and different ways of doing business. The what is considered as
Yes.
civil was different, etc. Right? A little, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But still very easy to read in some sense, in my opinion, right? I mean, Arthur Conan Doyle was a great storyteller, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And um, you told me about this Russian show, which is Sherlock Holmes. Is it the originals, or what they showed, the stories?
Yes, maybe there are some changes, but in general, it is the original story.
Ah, okay, okay. Um, So, what do you think about reading in the current world? Are people reading enough or less or more than
Of
before?
course. Of course, less than before, because we have a lot of mass media which
Mhm.
replace reading.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We all watch television and chatting and forums and social
Mhm.
media, right? We have a
Yes.
lot of activities.
Mhm.
Even I think it's not just something happens um, with the internet, that there are these cooking channels and hobbies and all these things. We have more activities now than before, right? An overproduction of stories that we are all we don't have enough time to engage in all this, right?
Yes, yes. Our life is very fast, and sometimes there is no time for reading at all.
As a mother and teacher, how do you what do you think about teaching reading or reading instruction or helping people to read, children especially? Is it
Uh,
more difficult, or what's the status there?
I think that the main goal of parents is to teach children to read as soon as possible,
Mhm.
so that they could read when they are very young. And yes, of course, it is very important for children. And it is very important to make them read for pleasure. That,
Read for pleasure. Yes, yes, yes. I agree with
yes,
that point. Yes.
and
Uh-huh.
it will help when they read for pleasure in their childhood.
Mhm.
Later, they will read a lot for their work when they are
Yes, yes.
adults.
I have a big problem with the classroom reading most of the times. I mean, I think it's the same everywhere, that the teachers or the curricula demands that we read a paragraph or a passage, and there are thousand questions like, who was Sherlock Holmes?
Mhm,
Where was he?
mhm.
So these silly questions. Sometimes you don't have to know when did Dr. Watson got his medical degree, right?
Yes, of course.
If it was really important in the story, there will be multiple times that simple piece of information. There is something called redundancy, right?
Mhm,
The writer will repeat enough times, and
mhm.
or even if you are ignorant about something, more reading will actually solve that problem, right? And
Yes, of course.
Frank Smith calls it programmatic instruction.
Mhm.
Too much control, or making reading in some sense difficult or even impossible, you know.
Mhm.
So if you are reading comic books, if you are reading novels, short stories, essays for pleasure and for
Mhm.
meaning, understanding is the most important thing about reading,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
of course.
Uh-huh. Um,
Sometimes when my daughter, for example, has such tasks, she should read, for example, a book, and then she should do the test, solve the test. She has stress, and sometimes, if even if she read the story properly, she can't answer these questions. And
mhm.
I agree that it is really stress, and it kills the 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 wish to read more. Yes.
Yes, I agree. I,
Mhm.
I mean, um, also, can you hear that something? Okay, no problem. I think
Yes,
it's
I'm
something
so.
like no.
Yes,
It's probably it's a blunder, right? Yeah.
yes.
Uh,
It's
so
coffee maker. I'm sorry.
a coffee maker, no problem, no
Yeah.
problem. Cheers. Did you take your daily dose of coffee? Your medicine,
Yes.
caffeine?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes.
You use a coffee machine,
Yes. A coffee
not a French
machine.
press. I see. And how many coffees do you drink in a day?
Uh, it depends on my condition. Sometimes 2 cups. Sometimes 3 cups.
Okay, okay. So me too, me too. So reading, why reading is difficult for people, right? I mean, for everyone and children, what are the reasons for people struggle in reading? Can you say it?
Um, I think that we should choose what we like. In first of all,
Mhm,
we should read with pleasure, and people struggle because they don't understand what they read, and they just want to stop doing it.
yes, yes, yes. Reading actually has a uh, very hard learning curve, right? It's a steep learning curve. Reading is really difficult, right?
Mhm.
Because when we, when you are a child, you actually can speak uh, fluently, somewhat fluently to your parents, even if you are like 5 or 6 or maybe 7, right? Even
Mhm.
at 2, you are a grammarian, like Papa come, Mama go. We say all these complex, in some sense, they are complex sentences, right?
Mhm.
They follow verbs and nouns and subjects and all that. And we really communicate with our parents, our friends. But when we try to read at school, sometimes it's difficult, right? And uh, reading takes time, right? Just like bicycle or anything. It
Mhm.
takes time to get fluent in reading, right?
Yes, of
And
course.
yeah, some people, I don't think they are really fluent in reading. They might be, I mean, it might be a little pretentious thing to say about other people, but some people are not fluent at reading, right? What do you think?
Yes, of course.
Uh-huh.
Because yes, we just because at school teachers make us read what we don't want to read, and we um, and teachers should find such books which are interesting for people. And I think it comes from school that people don't like reading it.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
the reading, how reading is tested is also problematic in my opinion, because
Yes.
if you really want to know if someone is really reading or not, is to really um, uh, I mean, you have a paragraph, then there are questions. uh, I don't know if it really tests whether a person is really a good reader or not, right? And reading takes more time and more effort, but you learn to read by reading, right? Through reading. You learn to read through reading. More reading is important.
Yes.
And also, in some sense, you need to increase the difficulty more you read. Like in the beginning, you can read comics and things like that. But if you only read comics, you can never read a, a good paragraph in a book, in a non-fiction book or a novel, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
need to achieve that genre fluency, right? To
Mm-hmm.
to really understand, read and understand any genre, it takes more work, right? Yeah. I mean, even if you are a fluent reader, I can make it difficult. Making reading difficult is actually very easy. I just have to know what is something that you don't know. For example, I give you a calculus textbook. You will
Mm-hmm.
struggle to read if you don't know anything about mathematics or calculus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because reading is not just about the particular language or prose style, but it's also about ideas, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so in order for a person to be a fluent reader, I think he or she must read all kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not when you are getting introduced to reading, no, but on the way, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Then another question some people might ask, why do I need reading, right? I mean, why don't we just uh, relax, and why are you saying that people should read, right? What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
What do you answer? Should people read in a society?
Yes, reading is even reading junk literature, junk novels is better than,
Mm-hmm,
for example, watching a film, watching a movie,
mm-hmm,
because it activates thinking. Movies don't do it.
mm-hmm,
And yes, when we read, we think very intensively,
mm-hmm.
and it improves our thinking, and we learn to think faster.
Ah, okay, okay. The entire civilization, we human beings changed culturally and intellectually because of the introduction of reading and writing, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
we just watch television, that's just oral culture, right? Not
Mhm.
literary culture. So
Mhm.
that's another point. Why literacy is important, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think? Why literacy is important? Why should people? I mean, Nazis, German Nazis, they were educated, right? I mean, a lot of people did have college degrees. A lot of people did have good high school education, but most of them turned into Nazis, right? So, um, why do that happen? What do you think?
Uh,
It's not just about Nazism. It's about the entire world. Why people, even when they are educated, go into terrorism or get interested in bad ideas, right? Like hurting other people or their own superiority or things like that.
mhm.
Uh, yeah.
An interesting question. I think we should read more novels, not only maybe something for education, for um, scientifical things, but also novels which teach us morality.
Mhm.
And it is my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, yes, yes. I mean, so yes, I mean, human rights, for example, a lot of people give lip service to human rights, right? Equality, that everyone has a right and happiness, right, um, rights for happiness and uh, that freedom. So, but when it comes to the real deal, people, I think, are not really, they don't really believe in human rights or things like that, right? So maybe what you said is correct. We might need a more rich culture, right, in people, rich culture, not just vocational training, eating and sleeping and making machines. But yes, I mean, in some sense, who has a nuclear weapon? The caveman, right? I mean, we have many traits like violence, like music, dance, eating, drinking. We have many traits and behaviors, and we can amplify each of them, right? So the caveman with the spear, the weapon, is the same man when he's the same man when he is like saying, I will bomb you, right? So yeah, that's another thing. Also, in some sense, we made it easier, right, to kill people. For example, ask this is Marshall McLuhan idea. Ask a young man, maybe 25 or 30, and tell him to pour gasoline or petrol on a mother and a child and a man, a family, and light. Okay, he would refuse. He would say, even if you kill me, I'm not going to do it, right? But if you give him the same, if you give the same man pilot training, an airplane, and a button to press the bomb, to release the bomb, he'll do it. You know, he has no problem. So he's killing many families, right? But we, in some sense, we, with more scientific progress and more military progress and more anger or arrogance or whatever, we know even how to separate ourselves from the real violence, right? We amplified violence into that. So it's actually very dangerous, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we need more education. So some people might say illiteracy is better in this sense, but I think semi-literate people are the problem, you know? I mean, I argue that Nazis were semi-literate. I mean, some people might say, no, they were really technologically advanced, blah, blah, blah. But they took humanity from them, right? They subtracted humanity from themselves, right? So in that sense, and it was a very bad idea, and it will never work, right? I mean, I mean, it works if the entire planet, boom, right? Everyone dies or something. I mean, in some sense, it's military. In military logic, it's correct. I mean, if there is a tribe here, there is a tribe there, the best thing you can do to win with the war or battle is to kill the entire people in the other tribe. Why? Because if you kill only a few people or only the men, there'll be women, there'll be children with revenge, right? So, in military logic, it's actually better to kill the entirety of them or brainwash them or whatever. So, you know, but even better is actually don't start the war and cooperate, right?
Of
So that's
course.
another
Yes.
question. Competition or cooperation, which is better, right? So, uh, of course, we can go with the pessimistic negative route or the positive route, right? But the negative route is not interesting because we already have climate change and problems and all that, and nothing matters. It's not interesting and it's not a solution. Nothing, right? So the only route we can take is positive route and how to really change the world or whatever, right? So in that sense, do you think more education, more reading actually does help, right?
Of course. Yes.
Uh, Tell me about it. Tell me about it. How reading changes a person or a society.
As you said, oral cultures were different from reading cultures, yes. And all the inventions happened in reading cultures, in reading societies. And of course, reading people, they are thinking people, they are educated people, and there is no chance to cheat them and to how to say it, to yes.
Yeah. I mean, there is a saying that there is no village atheist. You know why?
No.
There is no village atheist. That means, for example, you are in a very tribal village in the old times. Everything is good, everybody is good, folks are good to each other. But then someone is suspected to be a witch or a black magician or something. And other people are, angry about it. They are investigating, etc. And one person who is an atheist or a rationalist might say, no, you are wrong. There is no such a thing as magic. And what happens? The other people would, he's saying that there is no magic. Who would say that? A witch. So everyone will turn against him, right?
Yes, of course.
So yes, oral cultures. We are here for a long time, right? I mean, we human beings, and for many millennia, right? We didn't have reading, we didn't have writing, nothing, and less than 10,000 years ago, we started uh, recording things on cave paintings or whatever. That might be the ancestor of real writing, right? Then recording numbers, then actual writing, right? And printing press happened even recently, right? So reading dramatically changed the human beings, right? We had Newton and Galileo and all the mathematics and the scientific progress, and all of a sudden we are at this point, right? And that's another thing about businesses and abuses of companies and governments and things like that. uh, what do you think? Should people uh, how should people read, or how should children read to really get educated in to the 21st century,
Of course, there is
or ready for 22nd century?
a lot of information. Now it is the time of information, and we should just sort out. We should be able to sort out in a big quantity of information. We should find what is important, what is true, what is lie, and it is the most important thing to teach children to find the true information. Yes.
Yes. Critical thinking is also important, right?
Yes, critical
Yes.
thinking.
And reading also, there are good ideas, bad ideas, and mediocre ideas, right? A lot of ideas we human beings generate, are sometimes bad or mediocre ideas, right? Um, so science, for example, is a very good idea, and it's hard for people to really understand science. For example, have few friends who ask me, um, "How do you really know that it's really evolution? Uh, why not creationism?" You know, so it's hard to argue about the style of science, how science is done, and people think science is just opinion, you know it's just another opinion, doesn't have any extra value or anything. It's not unique, it's just an opinion. Our book, our holy book, Bible or Quran or something, they say something else, and uh, they can differentiate modern science is just 500 years old. Modern science, not saying. So Galileo is the father of modern science, right? He was here just 500 or so years ago, right? And yes, what about the Russian teaching reading? How do you guys teach reading to children?
At schools, teachers just make children read this or that story or novels, and then they check how children know the plot, the main facts of this story. Yes, and there is some noise.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fan. Sorry. Yeah, continue.
Yes, and of course, children get tests, as we said. Yes, what is not always good. Yes.
I see. And what about writing? How do you teach writing?
Children should write some stories, some essays. They describe pictures as everywhere.
If you don't read enough, can you write?
Of course, no, because you don't have any ideas if you don't read. Yes.
Also, you don't know how to format, how to make writing works. Some people think that chatting is writing or reading social media or chat. Why do you think that a novel or a short story or an essay is really writing and chatting or social media posts are not writing? What do you think about it?
Chatting is more about our everyday life. It is something not really, how to say it, educational. But novels, there are deeper ideas in novels, in literature.
Also, writing is really hard, right? I mean, to write a paragraph that is enjoyable, it's like making a meal, or it takes really design and architecture and everything, right? You really need to think, you really need to present the idea, right? So
Yes.
chatting is just transliteration of oral culture. We speak and there is no structure, there is no design. It's like instead of eating a meal, just eat some onion and and some meat or something like that, right? Writing is really difficult, and if you are a fluent reader, you really know what it really takes to write in a presentable, in a wonderful manner. Our oral speech is very limited, right? Because our thinking and language is, in some sense, so bad, in the sense that we have a lot of noises and our common sense is bad, actually. What do I mean by that? If we just go outside after waking up, we see the world is flat, but it really takes more than common sense to really understand why it is a round thing, and also to teach people or teach children why that is so, right? And how in elliptical orbits these planets are moving around the sun, etc., right? So each phenomena, each things in the world, be it scientific, be it related to our health, our body, our behavior, anthropology, psychology, society, all these subjects, it takes more than, it's hard to convey any of these ideas in just oral culture, right? You can give an advertisement to a good idea with oral culture, right? Or in a lecture, if it is really structured oral culture, right? Like but you really need books and people willing to read and take their time to really understand and think and get the aha moments. That's why Earth is round. That's why I see these phenomena. It fits, right? And also, and then you really have, you can do all the experiments. No, you just can't. But you really need to get that hit, right? Oh, this is how science is done. This is how things are argued, right? It's not emotional react. A lot of people are just reactive, right? They just, they have some some affinity to some ideas, and they just like preaching about it, right? I mean, I even argue that the Bible or Quran or these types of books, it's more about, if we look at it, they are all proverbs, proverbs and sayings, right? Did you notice that religious books and religious ideas and old, before the literate culture, they are all poetry, right? Or proverbs and sayings. And you can see they contradict each other a lot of times, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So real argumentation takes writing and reading and books, right? Yeah. And do you read psychology? You read philosophy and psychology, right? Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes.
And what type of, how do you judge a book? I mean, how do you judge a book, whether it is really good or not? When you are enjoying reading, yeah. What are you looking for when you are reading a book or a short story or anything? What do you need from a book?
I need that it change something in me, in my thinking, in my behavior, in my relations with people. It should change me. It should
Your
improve me.
perspectives.
Yes, my perspectives should improve me and help me. Yes.
So there is that too, right? There is this, if you are reading, you must risk that you might change or you might get convinced with another idea, something. So that's also why some people don't like reading, because they might have some stereotypical view about something, and it's hard to change, right? Most people like the idea of change and things. They might give lip service, but when it comes to the real change part, they refuse. No, no, no. It's not practical, right? So so that's also why probably some people don't want to read. Yeah.
But
There
if
is
we
this
don't,
psychological resistance. Yeah.
if we don't change, that means we just stay and don't go further.
Yes, we live in a world, and we see the world, and we just die in that same world, right? In the inner world.
Yes.
Nothing, you know, we, yes, yes, yes. And um, what do you suggest? What sort of Russian books do you suggest, or do you recommend me to read? Classics, right?
Of course, classics, yes. As I already told you, these are, maybe you don't know, Kuprin is a very good writer. And yes, and of course, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, you know it, and you have it in your shelves.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I mean, do you know Asimov? Asimov, Isaac Asimov.
Yes, you told me.
Yeah, he's from Russia too, right? But then he lived in the United States, and
Yes.
yeah, I'm a big fan of him. So, do you read any science fiction other than?
A little
Listen,
bit.
okay, okay. And what do your son and your daughter? What do they read?
My daughter likes to read Sherlock Holmes, Agatha Christie. She likes detective stories. And my son, he's only 7 years old. He prefers comics books.
Comics, yes.
Comics book, yes. And I I like that he does it. He reads it because he reads with pleasure, and that
Yes, of
means
course.
he will read more and more if he
Yes,
likes.
yes. I have read a lot of comic books too. I mean, comics are amazing because you learn words like meanwhile, like
Mhm,
two scenes are happening and there will be meanwhile, or
mhm,
uh, so also you learn how to structure a story and divide and reveal ideas in a surprising manner. Like in the end of a story, there is the surprise coming, like punchline,
mhm.
and so there is this order: beginning, middle, and end, etc. So
Yes.
comics are a good way, especially if the child likes it, to start
Mhm.
reading, right? Yeah, the only
Yes,
problem is that they should graduate to more better prose and books and things like that, right?
of course,
Comics are
yes.
also comics are also good for learning spelling, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Yes, there are these spellings and also good words like superhuman abilities, blah blah blah. I mean, uh,
Mhm.
those are good adjectives and words. And I mean, Russians. What type of comics do Russians make? I don't know. Are they from other places, or do does he read things like Spider-Man in or what?
Uh, these two, yes, these two,
Mhm.
and also we have comics in magazines.
I see.
Yes, yeah,
Original Russian stuff, right?
original Russian stuff. Yes. Mhm.
Uh-huh. Are there superheroes too?
No, no, it is not about superheroes. Just some characters which children like, only because they are comicses, and it is
Uh-huh.
easy to
I-
to read. Yes.
Yes, yes. And how did they start reading? What was your technique to teach your both children to read? Your son is
Uh,
7, right? Your son is 7 years old.
mhm.
When did he start reading? At what age?
uh, I started teaching him when he was maybe 3 years old, and
3.
yes, my daughter she did it earlier,
Mm.
and yes, and
What is your technique? What do you
uh,
do?
I I read with them every day. It is
Read
my
with them. Read to them. You read to
Yes,
them.
of course, I read to them myself. When they go to sleep, I read them, and then also we have lessons when
Mhm.
I make them read, and of course, they receive something from me when they read properly, when they
You
put
reward them.
put efforts. Yes, I reward them.
I see. What was that? Pavlov's dog? Conditioning? No. Yes. Okay.
No, it is a really good way. We should not
Yes,
punish,
yes. Probably.
but
Yeah.
we should reward. Yes.
Yes, yes. Eating and drinking during reading is actually very good. I find it's not just as a reward, but um, sometimes I think it's slightly psychological, that you are like reading and you need to eat something. Also, reading, doing mathematics, etc., makes your brain use more glucose, and it really is difficult, right? I mean, if you are like doing some mathematics problem, or something hard to read, suddenly you want to stop reading it, close it,
Mhm.
and relax, right? uh,
Yes.
yeah, sometimes you need to take a break, you need to eat something, brush your hair, whatever, and come back and read
Mhm.
it. And yes, and yes, if I am teaching in a classroom or whatever, I let the children to put their legs on the table, or lie down, or eat or drink or talk to each other once in a while, no problem.
Mhm.
So this constrained, reading classrooms I don't think they are effective in some sense, right? Of course, discipline is important, but if you read,
Mhm.
you are suddenly fluent in reading if you read more and more. So reading is the solution, right? So you made them interested in reading by reading to them. So they are seeing it, they are understanding that there is this importance. Also, they are
Yes.
seeing that you are telling all these crazy stories from just a rectangular object, right?
Yes.
Uh, there is no batteries needed. If you take it and put it down or fold, no problem. It's not like an electronic device which is expensive and breaks. You don't need battery. You just need a little bit of light and read it and understand it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really, it is a good time spending of time with children. A good hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yes, you can discuss and enjoy with children, and they get used to it. And if they get used to it in their childhood, they will do it when they are adults. Yes, it is. I think it is very important for parents to
Yes, yes.
to do it for their children.
Because, like Maria Montessori said, it's we children are designed to learn things from their surrounding culture, right? So when their parents are doing making them do something, they want to imitate it and they want to contribute things to it. They want to feel better, etc. As soon as you do it, right? So
Mhm.
that's the ultimate, what is the word, reward, right? You just read to them, you just make them interested in the thing, and
Mhm.
don't punish them, right? I mean, if you punish them, they want to rebel, right? Rebel. No, I don't want
Yes,
to.
of course.
Yes. Some
Yes.
parents make that mistake, I think. they
Mhm.
they punish and they scold them too much for reading, and
Mhm.
sometimes it would work because we humans are resilient creatures, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Frank Smith in his book Understanding Reading, um, he's claiming that so you are complaining a lot about reading and things like that, but still, how come all these people read? And he
Mhm.
was saying, I'm just pointing out the bad techniques. We humans are, of course, very resilient creatures. We
Mhm.
learn it anyway, in some sense. Uh, so he's concerned about the fluency of reading and how to
Mhm.
make it better, right? And also how to make it universal, so that all children, all people are going to be fluent in reading, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Um, yes. And uh, uh, when we when you make them read, what did you do? First, you read to them as stories, right? Or were they looking at the text when you were reading in the bedtime? Or
They prefer to look at the pictures, of course,
uh-huh,
and yes, and they like also like when the stories are humorous.
uh-huh. Yes, yes. I
Yes,
mean,
and they like.
even
Mhm.
if they are looking at the picture, they can't help but see text and see regularities in the text, the name of the magazine, the
Mhm.
characters' names, etc. It's
Mhm.
hard not to look at it, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
yes, making them interested in the process is the most important thing, right?
Mhm. Yes,
Yes.
of course.
Uh-huh.
That's why I try to go to the library uh, as fast as often as possible
Nice.
to give them new books. I want them to make it to be interested
Mhm,
uh, because new books they raise the interest.
mhm.
Uh, Even if they didn't read the books, all the books till the end, I try to change them
I
um,
see.
because it helps to
Th- These
to raise them.
libraries These libraries are near your home, right? Russian libraries.
Yes, yes, they
They are
are
free, right? They are
free.
free.
They are free. Yes.
State-run libraries. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many books per child? A child can take how many books?
5 books
5
for a
books at a
child.
time, one time.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes.
And what is the duration? How
2 weeks. We take
2
books for
weeks?
2 weeks. Yes.
Then you can
Then
renew the book, right? Renew.
yes, yes, yes. We can. Yes, renew the
And
book.
what if you lose a book? Uh, you need to replace it or pay a fine or something, right?
I didn't
You didn't
lose,
have that
but
situation. Yeah,
I think yes, I didn't have. But I think of course you should replace or you should pay.
I see. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, that's also another thing, right? We have all these information. I mean, even if you don't have a library near, I mean, many countries, many people, middle class people, and poor people, they all have facilities for reading. Some unfortunately, not all people. Of course, there are people who don't have any access to these things. Even for them, I think nowadays we have computers and internet everywhere, and newsprint is cheap. You can print uh, books for a small price. Any classics are free on the internet, right? So it's not that we don't have enough books. I mean, especially middle class people everywhere. It's not that they don't have the material, they don't have the books. It's just that they don't want to do it, right? Isn't that funny, right? So
Yes.
a lot of people don't use it, right? Use these facilities like libraries and public domain books on the internet. Yeah, and to a degree, illegally downloading or pirating books too. Yeah, yes. People are not using any of these. Yeah, I'm not promoting illegal downloading of books, but in some sense, or any book is also possible on the internet nowadays. Yeah, if you are poor or unfortunate. Yeah. So yes, yes, and okay. Tell me, you have to go now, right? It's time for you to
Uh,
go.
yes, it's time for me to go.
It was a very good discussion about reading and literacy and solving all the problems in the world by 2 people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope the world changes and things are better, right? Soon.
Yeah.
So have a good day,
You too
Katya.
have a good day. Bye bye.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.